Right to a livable condition should not be dependent on one's legal status. Immigrant children are having their human rights violated in immigrant detention centers. Now, before I explain and give some background info, I really kind of want to show you like what the situation at hand is really like. So, the United States is really known to be the land of freedom, the land of opportunity, the land of success, and we've helped develop this idea of the American dream. You know, that if you work hard, you will be rewarded and you'll be successful. You know, this dream has been sold to all these immigrants who come and migrate to the country in wanting to like have a better future, not only for themselves but for their families. Now, this doesn't really help our immigration system because we don't have a strong policy at hand. So a lot of immigrants are stuck in this frozen policy because there is nothing going on for them. You know, it's very hard to get legally processed into this country. It's not impossible, but it's not plausible either because the immigration system that is put in hand does not really reflect the immigrants that we have in our country currently. So, based off that, we have an immigration problem, and the way the Trump administration has tried to, minimize this problem is by having a zero tolerance policy. So, basically, what that means is that once immigrants come into this country, they're going to be put into holding and detained. And not only will you be detained, but you'll be separated from your family. So we're separating families as soon as they enter the border based off age. So if you're an adult, you're going to go in the adult section. Now, if you're a minor, you're going to go with all the minors. So, based off this idea of zero tolerance policies, we've developed these detention centers that are looking more and more like concentration camps. Now, I don't use this term lightly. The word concentration camps is something that's often associated with like the horrific things that happened in World War II, and I totally understand that, and I use the word with the most sensitivity and the most respect, especially for those who were in concentration camps who have experienced that. But this is not a figure of speech, but more a reality, one that's reflecting the current situation at hand. You know, concentration camps is something that existed before World War II, and it's something that existed even after, as we currently can see. Concentration camps at the core is basically grouping people and isolating them. The same way, we're grouping these immigrants and isolating them from their families, and a lot of people don't like the word because we don't want to associate the United States the same way we associate Germany with concentration camps. Things that happened to Auschwitz, and although things are not happening to that degree, bodies aren't being burned by the mass casualties, but there is this idea that we're separating families, we're trying to like destabilize that system. And not only that, but the whole point of concentration camp is to group these individuals because they're believed to be a threat to national security. And this idea is very similar to the way immigrants are viewed as a threat to national security. So not only are they similar in ways of isolation, but we're also using the same concept that these groups of people are believed or perceived to be a threat to national security. And not only is that something that's happening, but it's something that happens to many immigrants when we first come into this country. They're being placed in abandoned factories, they're being placed in old Walmarts, places with concrete floor. Children are being separated from their families and put in cages. And that's not a term, liberals or Democrats are using, but that is a reality. They're fenced in. And based off that, it is looking more and more like a concentration camp. And not only that, but recently, according to the Washington Post, one of the biggest debates right now is putting these immigrants, especially these minors, in what was a Japanese American concentration camp. The United States has had concentration camps before, perhaps not on the scale of what, Auschwitz is known as, but it still existed. Now, one of the things that people don't realize is that not only are these children in concentration camps, but they are living in horrible conditions. According to the Associated Press, over 250 children are locked currently in a detention center in Texas without adequate food, water, or sanitation. The Hispanic Caucus has also stated that out of those 250 children, 15 have the flu, and teenagers are taking care of these young infants because they're sick. And not only that, but they're not giving, hygienic products or, quality food. They're given frozen food that's not even fully thawed, it's not fully cooked. And that's just an inhumane condition. And not only that, but some of these children have been in these detention centers or camps or whatever euphemism you want to call them. Some of them haven't bathed or had clean set clothes in over 27 days. The BBC also stated that in July 2017, the U.S. District Judge Dolly G found that the Trump administration was guilty of violating the Flores Agreement by not providing immigrant children with appropriate food or hygienic supplies. And, the government kind of tries to be like, oh, okay, like we understand that, and give, these immigrant children like aluminum foil blankets, but that is not enough. They interpreted the law that states that these this level of quality that needs to be met, and soap and toothbrushes do not fit into that quality. So these children are living without soap or without toothbrushes because the government doesn't believe that that is adequate for a livable condition. you know there are too many young lives to be interpreting the law in this way. They're put at risk, and unfortunately some immigrants do die, some minors do die in these detention centers. you know Not only are these livable conditions horrible, but they're also being subjected to sexual abuse. Now, full disclosure, I will be talking about sexual abuse in these detention centers, and that can be a trigger for some people, so I will fully respect if you decide not to continue watching. However, the Justice Department did reveal that more than 4,500 cases complaints have been reported by the DHS that in this detention centers, minors have accused or reported that some type of sexual abuse has taken place. This does include the adult staff that may have seen minors take a shower, fondled them, kissed them, or raped them. This is not okay. This is so inhumane that these children who come here for a better life have to live through this and experience one of these things just to get into this country. This is not a condition children were meant to live in. Yet, the crazy part about this is that people still defend these facilities. Arguments about these facilities are like, oh, well, these children broke the law coming into this country, so they should be put in these detention centers. So, whatever you believe in, these detention centers are inhumane, so we should A, try to resolve that. But not only that, but these immigrants are exercising their legal right to come into this country and ask for asylum if that's what they choose to do. And the conditions that they're given is inhumane. And then some people are like, oh, well, we understand that, the separating of families is not cool. There was a lot of international and national outcry. And yes, like some orders were given to like stop separating families. However, this is still continuing to happen. So if an order was given to stop separating families, yet it's still continuing, reports are still coming in that, people are being separated. And not only that, but they're like, oh, well, there's also a class action lawsuit happening, submitted by the ACLU. However, that's not enough, and that doesn't help the children now. We need to help these children in this moment. You know, Immigrant children are having their human rights violated, and it's important that we protect these children. These are children, and regardless of their documented state or their legal status or wherever they come from, they're still children, and we should protect them at all costs. Thank you.